It's like a brother-sister dynamic, but they've had sex. Why? Like, I don't want to watch this. Like, if you watch her, it's kind of scary. Like, people were so far up her ass. She didn't give a fuck. She's the one that rode a train through Vanderpump Rules.
Can pull me from the dark.
Today I'm talking about Vanderpump Rules episode 9. So this week the gang's all in Mexico. They're celebrating for Scheana's wedding, and we have Katie and Christina Kelly off on their own side of the hotel. And one of the funniest parts was Rachel walking over there and trying to tell Katie that she will not be allowed to be in specific areas of where like the bridal party is going to be, or like the wedding in general will be, because Scheana doesn't want her around, basically. And what's funny about it is they flash back to Scheana talking about it when they first arrive in the hotel lobby, and she's like, oh, so who's gonna be the one to tell Katie that she's, you know, off the preferred guest list? And Rachel takes it upon herself to be that person because she's so ballsy at this point. Her confidence is so built up that she feels good enough about herself to walk over there and tell Katie this. And even Katie says it in one of her interview bites. She's like, the level of self-awareness is just, it's comical at this point. They basically laugh at her in her face. Christina was a little bit more understanding, like, okay, we'll try to stay, like, and Katie was not having it. She's like, basically, I will do what I want, and making fun of her to her face. Like, it was pretty cringy. It just shows me that at that point, obviously, Rachel and Sandoval were already fucking, and she feels so good about herself. Her sneaking around with him and being able to pull this off, really just, you can see her confidence boosted off the rooftop. It shows you the kind of person that she is, and the fact that that's what builds her confidence. It's like, wow, like, again, you're a shitty ass person. And her interviews where she has that pink dress on with the feathers at the end, and she's making fun of Lala and Katie and Christina, like comparing them to the Muppets, like those old men that sit up on the bleachers and they're like making comments about people, and she's like doing these hand movements with her sleeves. It's just like, and she thinks she's so funny that she's just like really going in on Lala and Katie. It's embarrassing. Like, and she doesn't get it. Like, she thinks she's really making a funny, and she's not. And Lala mentions it on her podcast. She's like, those interview bites, like, they get more and more embarrassing as the season goes on. She knows that the producers are basically letting her make a fool of herself because she thinks she's really getting it, but she's not. Another part that was interesting was how James Kennedy kind of gets annoyed with Lala for pulling Ellie aside and kind of like checking in on her. Lala and James have like this weird dynamic. It's like a brother-sister dynamic, but they've had sex, so it's just like weird. But, you know, like, she talks about like how they're friends and she has his back, but then she goes and she pulls his girlfriend aside and kind of warns her about him. I feel like because she's so traumatized, because she's still like, it's still so fresh for her, like what happened between her and Randall, she feels like she needs to protect the women around her, and she kind of sees similar traits between Randall and James, so she wants to like give Ellie the heads up and just like have her watch out. So I know it's coming from a good place, but then I feel like she's also throwing her friend under the bus, and that's why he gets mad at her, because he's like, what the fuck, Lala? Like, we're supposed to be cool, and then you're warning my girlfriend about me? Like, which one is it? It just makes me feel for her, because it must be tough to see those red flags and want to warn everyone about them and not really have any control over other people's actions, obviously. You could just tell that she's still hurt, and she's going to be hurt for a very long time. And now let's get to the kiss. The kiss heard and seen around the world. Schwartz and Raquel finally make out. It is not a pretty sight to see. Schwartz uses his tongue with her, and it's just like, why? Like, I don't want to watch this. Again, if we didn't know what we know now, like, maybe I would have thought it was like cute or romantic, but really it's sleazy. Like, it's sleazy on his part, it's sleazy on her part. Everyone cheers for it, and it's just like, wow, like, that's not cool, especially when they basically agreed that that's something that they would avoid. And so yeah, again, you can see that Rachel's getting off on this. Like, she feels so proud of herself. Like, she was chipping away at Sandoval, or at Schwartz, well, Sandoval too, and she got what she wanted finally, and she just feels, you know, like, her smile, she has like this evil smile. Like, if you watch her, it's kind of scary. Like, this girl is just she's a little off. I can't put my finger on her, but she's not like regular people. It was not fun to watch. It's like those are two grown people. She even says it in one of her interviews. She's like, my attraction to Schwartz outweighs my wanting to be friends with Katie. So if you switch out Schwartz to Sandoval and Katie to Ariana, like that's what she felt. And that's why she did what she did with Sandoval, because her attraction and her need to feel good about herself outweighs her friendship with Ariana. Despite them being best friends and Ariana having her back, she was everyone's favorite. People were so far up her ass, specifically Scheana and Ariana, like always defending her, always trying to keep her feelings in mind, and she just threw that all out the window. She didn't give a fuck, and it's disgusting. So this episode got my heart rate up, and I feel like that's how it's gonna be for the rest of the season. And then we saw Tom Schwartz on Watch What Happens Live right after last week, and that was a whole other thing. Media training, like obviously, but as a watcher, like it was amazing. And even Andy Cohen said it on his podcast during the week. He's like, as an interviewer, like it was amazing, but he couldn't stop, like he couldn't shut up, and he just kept going and going. And so yeah, he gave us the most tea out of that whole cast so far, and it was juicy. He talked about how basically Rachel was Sandoval's heroine and he was addicted and he was obsessed, and that the first time that they kissed was in August, and Sandoval did tell him about that. So at the point that they make out in Mexico, Schwartz already knew that Sandoval and Rachel had kissed. So he said it himself that like it wasn't a decoy, it wasn't like to help cover the other two. He was like genuinely interested, and it's just weird, like the timeline and how they're like basically fine like sharing this girl. I wish that Rachel would have a little bit more respect for herself than to just be passed around like she's the one that rode a train through Vanderpump Rules. Man. And then he was also talking shit about Katie. Like at one point he called her a monster a few times, and his co-guest John Owen Lowe, and he I guess is a big Vanderpump Rules fan too, and he was just like dying, like his reactions, like the expressions on his face, he was us, absolutely. And even he asked him, he's like, so monster, is that a word that you wanna stick with? George's like, did I say monster? I mean angel. And he tries, like, he plays that like cute like puppy dog like wannabe nice guy, but he's really not a nice guy, because the way he defends Sandoval compared to the way he defends his ex-wife is just like light years difference. It's actually very sad, and it makes sense as to why they got divorced, because he can never have Katie's back. He is so loyal to Sandoval. Like he talks about, yeah, he knows he's a piece of shit and blah blah blah, but just give him a hug. Like he really needs it. It's like, read the room, know your audience. No one wants to give Sandoval a hug right now, and as a matter of fact, the fact that you're saying this makes us not like you too. Like, get the picture. He doesn't hold him accountable for anything. Like, he just lets it slide, and he never did this for his wife. Like, he always talked about how she was the provocateur. The fact that he made her cry at the beginning of the episode when they're having dinner and it was supposed to be celebratory because they sold their house and they're trying to have an amicable, non-contentious divorce, and it just like goes to shit and Katie walks away crying. So in the interview, one of the producers was asking her like, why do you think that Schwartz can never like have your back? Or I can't remember what the specific question was, but it was really like heartbreaking. She was like, I've been thinking about it, and all I can think is that he just never really liked me. Maybe he loved me, but he never really liked me. And it just broke my heart. It really did. It shows like her vulnerability right there, and just how fucked up their relationship is, and I just totally related to like her, walking away crying, and it's like he's always going to disappoint her. Like he's never going to be able to prove her wrong, and that hurts. It's fucked up. Sandoval and Schwartz should go off and be like their own couple, because those guys are thicker than thieves, as Caroline Manzo would say. It's just wild to me. Yeah, I mean, I had a high heart rate for most of that episode, especially towards the end. I'm sure it's going to be like that for this week's episode and really the rest of the season, especially as we get closer to the final episode and the reunion. The reunion is going to be 3 episodes in May, so we're getting there, and it was a lot to digest this week. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm glad you guys are here. If you're into Bravo and reality TV gossip and Hollywood drama. I have other recap videos, and I enjoy all of this stuff. So again, I appreciate you being here. I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Can pull me from the dark.